No, Frank Pallone. Frank Pallone is our original sponsor of this legislation. He has been a champion of the oceans for a whole lot of years. Remember what I mentioned before, and that is that there's some folks who suggest that they are the ones who care the most about the oceans, and I suggest that you care as much or more about the oceans and what takes place. More! I didn't hear that, I'm sorry. Sorry. Thank you very much, thank you. But having said that, this is a guy who for a long time started in our assembly, worked through Senate, has become a congressman years ago, and has dedicated himself to it. He took the seat of another champion, Jim Howard, who was a wonderful guy who worked hard on Magnuson, the original Magnuson Act, and who was a champion for us. Frank has not in any way let that mantle down. He's carried the mantle being a champion for us. So if you would, please, and I want very enthusiastic round of applause for Frank Pallone.
I'm really so glad to see so many people come out here today. This is an incredible crowd. You know, I've been to a lot of rallies here. I've never seen a rally this big in this location. You ought to be proud of yourselves for being here today. And I want to particularly mention the kids, the young people that are here today. Why are you stopping me from fishing? That's what it's all about. I don't worry about myself. I worry about the kids and our grandchildren, whether they're going to be able to fish, because fishing is a right. It's an inherent right that every American should be able to take advantage of. Now, I want to say another thing that's very important to me. You know, I keep hearing from different people that say, well, the environmentalists don't like what we're doing here and trying to have flexibility with the Magnuson Act. Let me tell you something. There is no group that's more environmental than the fishermen. They're the environmentalists. I've been up here for 30 years with Ray Bogan and Jim Donofrio and the RFA and all the different groups that helped put this together today. And when the time came 20 years ago when we had those ocean dumping sites off the state of New Jersey, they were the first ones to show up at the public hearing and say, close those ocean dumping sites. They've been on the forefront of trying to stop pollution in the ocean and the lakes for years. You're the environmentalists. You're the ones that are out there trying to protect the species and trying to keep the water clean. That's you, and I admire you for it. And there's nothing more important than grassroots. You're here today. I know you've been contacting our offices. After this meeting today, you've got to go talk to your members of Congress and your senators. When you got to go home, you have to do the same thing. Because the most important thing of all the signs I see out there today is I fish and I vote. That's the only thing people understand in this place. They understand who's going to come out in November and vote. And if you're out there and you're telling them that they better listen to you, otherwise they're not going to get your vote, that is the most important thing that you can tell all of them. Now, what we're trying to do here is very simple, and it's not that big a deal, in my opinion. We know that right now, you know, we have a recession. We're trying to get out of it, but things are tough. Well, the reality is, all we're saying is that people should have the right to fish, and if the science tells us then there have to be some restrictions, we're willing to live with that. But the problem is that the science is broken. And what's being done by the federal agencies is not based on science. Fishermen are rational. You want the science, you want to be able to have good science and make rational decisions. But that's not what's happening here in Washington. And that's why we need flexibility. Because too many times we've had closures, too many times we've had restrictions that made no sense. They're not rational, they're not based on science. I don't know what they're based on, but we've got to send the message that we need flexibility, because that's the only way that we're going to really effectively make some changes around here. So I just want to thank you all for all that you did. I want to say one more thing today, you know, and this is another example of why we have a problem. There's going to be a hearing this afternoon in the Resources Committee. That's where my bill, the Magnuson Flexibility Act, eventually will be heard. That's where it is. But this afternoon, the Oceans Committee, the subcommittee of the Resources Committee, is having a hearing, and I'm going to leave here and go over there on the president's budget. And one of the most disappointing things for me was when I looked at that budget and I saw they were taking money away from science and research and getting it to what? I see a sign over there, no catch shares. That's where they're sending the money. Wrong way to go. We need more science and research, and better, we don't need that money siphoned away and used for catch shares. That's the problem. You send the message and we'll win. Thank you very much.